King Kong versus
The sun was a
Medusa
hammer
Gorgon and
on the
lions
baked
and her
earth.
snakes.
The
Skull
air
Island
shimmered
showdown.
with heat.
The mist hung
And
heavy over Skull Island.
his body
a
a
place
map
where
of
time
lean
seemed to stand
muscle
still
and old
ancient
scars
horrors lurked
crouched
in the
the
shadows.
dappled
King
shade of a
Kong, the
baobab.
colossal ape
He
and
held a
undisputed ruler
freshly
of the
fletched
island,
arrow,
stood
its
atop a
tip
jagged
coated
cliff,
with a
his
dark,
chest heaving as he
viscous
surveyed
paste
his domain.
made from the grubs
The air
of
was
the
thick
desert
with tension,
beetle.
a
It
primal
was a
warning that
hunter's
something
tool,
unnatural
but
had
today
invaded
it was
his
a
territory.
weapon of justice.
The battle for
It's
Skull Island had begun.
900,000 years
Then,
ago,
the ground
in the
trembled not
savannas
from
of
Kong's
what would
footsteps,
one day be
but from
called
something far more
Tanzania.
sinister.
The people
With a swift
lived
turn,
by a
she locked
simple,
eyes with Kong,
brutal
her
code.
cursed gaze
The
shooting
land
toward
gave
him.
life,
But
and the
Kong was no
land
ordinary
took it.
beast. His instincts
You
were
took
razor sharp.
only what you needed.
He ducked behind
You
a massive
respected
boulder
the
just in
spirits
time,
of the
the
animals
stone
you
cracking
killed,
as her power
and you
grazed its
protected
surface.
your own.
The lions lunged,
The
their
Hadzabe,
stone
though
claws
they would not
scraping
call
against
themselves
Kong's
that
fur
yet,
as he
were a
swatted one
thread
side
in the
with a
great
thunderous
tapestry
backhand.
of life,
A chorus of
woven
hisses
tight
slithered
by
through the
kinship
trees,
and
followed
survival.
by the low, guttural
But their
growls of
world was
lions.
shattered when the
Emerging from
strangers
the gloom
came.
was Medusa
They were
Gorgon,
taller,
her
broader,
serpentine hair
with a
writhing,
different
her
smell
eyes
and a
glowing with
harsh,
an eerie,
guttural
petrifying
language.
light. The
They
lions,
did not
freed from her
ask, they
control,
took.
collapsed into lifeless
So
stone.
when N.O.
Kong,
and his two
breathing heavily,
companions
approached the
finally
fallen
found
Gorgon.
the strangers'
With one
camp,
final,
he knew
earth-shaking
there was
roar,
only
he raised
one
his
thing to
fist.
do.
Behind her, a pack of lions, their eyes blank and stone-cold, moved like puppets under her curse. His fur bore scorch marks from venom, his muscles ached from the struggle, and the memory of those petrifying eyes would haunt him. Kong roared, beating his chest in defiance. The petrifying gaze, he grabbed one of the stone lions and hurled it at her, forcing her to dodge. In that split second, he closed the distance. Knowing he couldn't look directly at her, he swung blindly, his fist connecting with a sickening crunch. Medusa shrieked as she was sent flying into the ruins of an ancient temple. Medusa struck first. Serpents in fury, the snakes in Medusa's hair struck like whips, their fangs dripping venom. Kong grabbed one and ripped it free, crushing it in his fist before hurling it into the jungle. But more took its place, coiling around his arms, their poison seeping into his skin. His muscles burned, but his rage kept him moving. With a mighty shake, he flung the serpents loose, then charged. The final clash, Medusa retreated, her lions forming a living barrier. But Kong was relentless. The snakes hissed in agony, their movements slowing, and brought it down. Aftermath, the island fell silent once more. Kong stood victorious, but the encounter left its mark. Yet Skull Island was his, and no monster, mythical or otherwise, could take it from him. Word count, 3,000 plus. Genre, monster battle, adventure tone, epic, gritty, action-packed. Would you like any adjustments or expansions on specific scenes? By Fuho, det fibbises förvånk, jadipi.
So, a young man of the Hadza people woke the sun hammering on his back. He looked out over the cracked waters, the shimmering heat haze, and the lone cry of a hornbill. Beside him, his younger sister, Luenje, stirred. Today was the day they would harvest honey. Sao traced the faint tracks of a small ostrich and a honey badger. The badger had been feasting. Sao and his group followed the tracks to a baobab tree. Naila, Isha's mother, knocked down some greenish-brown pods. They cracked open the shells to find a dry, chalky white pulp that tasted like tart citrus. This was makaliko, the baobab fruit. After a couple hours of walking, they came to a cave. Sao ran his hand over the wall and he found line and the shapes painted by the old ones, a herd of elephants, a giraffe, handprints. They were not just four people walking through the bush. They were the living end of a very long, unbroken chain. They spent the afternoon gathering honey, the golden treasure of the Hadza. Ish climbed the tree with practice teeth and he pulled out the honeycomb. The bees were African honey bees, aggressive and protective. He sealed the hive with mud and leaves, leaving the bees to rebuild. When the pouch was full, they feasted on the comb, wax and all, the rich, complex flavors of the honey bursting on their tongues. The journey back to camp was leisurely. As they walked, Sao scanned the horizon, half expecting to see a kudu. A silent understanding passed between the young men. Xiao strung his bow. He notched an arrow tipped with a carefully crafted steel point. The poison was a careful alchemy. The Ashanga. The world narrowed to the space between his and the kudu's chest. He released the arrow. It struck true. The kudu bolted into the thicket. They heard the crash of Sao, a had zaman of 4,000 years ago, looks out over the valley he calls home. Behind him are the caves where his ancestors painted pictures 40,000 years ago, a record of their lives and the animals they hunted. Today, he and his band have returned from a successful honey hunt. The sun-baked earth is cracked and red, but Sao can read the stories written in the dust. He sees the tracks of a small ostrich and a honey badger. The badger has taken its share of honey, but there is plenty left for the Hadza. They have found a baobab tree with ripe fruit, and the men use their axes to harvest the sweet, citrusy pulp. Life is good. The children laugh and play as they suck the pulp from the baobab pods. Sao watches them, feeling a deep contentment. This is their inheritance, this land, these trees, the bees, the plants and the animals that give them food and the medicine. It's a legacy that stretches by 400 years. And as Sao looks up at the stars, he knows his people will be here forever.